My beloved child, do not pass by this message too quickly. Pause for a moment. There is a reason your eyes found these words today. There is a reason your spirit felt drawn here when countless other things could have captured your attention. What you are about to hear is not ordinary. Something has been moving beneath the surface for far longer than you realize, and tonight a veil is beginning to lift. You have spent so much time wondering what was hidden from you. You have questioned the silence. You have questioned the distance. You have questioned why certain answers seem to stay just beyond your reach no matter how sincerely you searched for them. There were nights when your heart replayed conversations over and over again. There were mornings when you woke up carrying emotions that did not even seem to belong to the present moment. Deep inside, a part of you felt that something important was unfolding somewhere beyond your view. And my child, that feeling was not imagined. There are moments in life when truths remain concealed until the exact second they are ready to be revealed. There are conversations that happen behind closed doors. There are confessions that emerge unexpectedly. There are words spoken in vulnerable moments that carry the power to alter the direction of multiple lives. What I am about to reveal concerns one such moment. For a long time, your soulmate carried a burden they rarely allowed anyone to see. To those around them, they appeared composed. They appeared certain. They appeared as though they understood exactly what they wanted and where they were going. Yet beneath that carefully maintained image existed a conflict they could not escape. The conflict was not about appearances. It was not about status. It was not about what others expected. It was about truth. The truth has a way of knocking louder each time someone tries to ignore it. At first it whispers. Then it nudges. Then it begins appearing in dreams, memories, coincidences, and emotions that refuse to disappear. Eventually it becomes impossible to silence. Your soulmate reached that point. For months, perhaps even years, they wrestled with emotions they could not fully explain. There were moments when they convinced themselves they had moved on. Moments when they believed they had buried certain feelings forever. Moments when they tried to build a future based solely on logic and practicality. But every attempt left something unfinished. Every distraction eventually faded. Every explanation eventually felt incomplete. Because the heart recognizes what the mind often struggles to understand. And while many people around them believed they had everything figured out, a private storm was quietly growing stronger. My child, there is something you must understand. Not everyone who appears confident is truly at peace. Not everyone who smiles has clarity. Not everyone who seems certain has actually found their truth. Your soulmate carried questions they dared not speak aloud. Questions about love. Questions about destiny. Questions about choices. Questions about whether they had ignored signs they should have paid attention to long ago. At first these questions appeared only occasionally. Then they became constant companions. They followed them during quiet evenings. They followed them while driving alone. They followed them through conversations that seemed ordinary on the surface. No matter where they went, those questions remained. And then something unexpected happened. A gathering took place. It seemed ordinary. Nothing about the day suggested it would become memorable. People laughed. People shared stories. People discussed plans. The atmosphere felt familiar and comfortable. Yet hidden within that ordinary setting was a moment that would leave everyone speechless. Your soulmate did not plan to say what they said. They certainly did not expect the reaction they would receive. In fact, for most of the gathering, they remained quiet, observing, listening, thinking. Their mind was occupied by thoughts they had not shared with anyone. As conversations unfolded around, one particular topic emerged: marriage. At first it was casual. Someone mentioned a wedding. Another person shared a story about relationships. Someone else offered an opinion about commitment. The discussion expanded. Different perspectives filled the room. Some spoke confidently. Others joked. Some shared personal experiences. No one realized that the conversation was striking directly at a wound your soulmate had been hiding. With every passing minute, memories surfaced. Memories they thought had faded. Memories connected to feelings they believed they had buried. The more they listened, the more difficult it became to remain silent. Inside them, something was shifting. Something was preparing to emerge. My child, there are moments when the soul becomes tired of carrying secrets. There are moments when truth demands expression. There are moments when even the strongest walls can no longer contain what has been locked behind them. This was one of those moments. The room continued talking. People continued sharing opinions. And then someone asked a simple question. It seemed harmless. A casual question. The kind of question people ask without expecting anything extraordinary. Yet that question changed everything. The question was directed toward your soulmate. For a brief moment, silence appeared. The conversation paused. Everyone waited. Most expected an ordinary answer. Most expected a predictable response. No one anticipated what came next. Your soulmate looked down. Then they looked across the room. Something in their expression changed. The confidence they usually projected gave way to vulnerability. The certainty people associated with them suddenly disappeared. And then they spoke. The first words immediately caught everyone's attention. Not because they were loud. Not because they were dramatic. But because they were honest. Raw honesty has a power unlike anything else. People recognize it instantly. They feel it. They hear it beneath every syllable. And when your soulmate began speaking from that place of honesty, the entire atmosphere shifted. Conversations stopped. Phones lowered. Eyes focused. No one wanted to interrupt. Because everyone sensed they were witnessing something real. Something important. Your soulmate admitted that for a long time they had been pretending to understand their own heart. They admitted they had made choices based on expectations rather than conviction. They admitted they had ignored emotions they could no longer deny. The room grew quieter. People exchanged glances. Some appeared confused. Others appeared surprised. But no one spoke. Your soulmate continued. The words came more freely now. Years of silence were beginning to unravel. Every sentence revealed another layer. Every confession exposed another hidden truth. And then they said something that caused an even deeper silence. They confessed that the idea of marriage had never frightened them. What frightened them was the possibility of spending a lifetime wondering whether they had chosen the wrong path. Those words landed heavily. No one laughed. No one interrupted. No one knew what to say. Because everyone understood the weight behind that statement. Your soulmate was not speaking theoretically. They were speaking from experience. From regret. From longing. From a place deep within their spirit. The room could feel it. My child, many people spend their entire lives avoiding that level of honesty. Many people convince themselves that comfort is enough. Many people silence their deepest truths in order to maintain appearances. But on that day, your soulmate stopped running. For the first time, they allowed others to see the conflict they had hidden for so long. The confession continued. Each revelation became more personal. Each sentence peeled back another layer of armor. Some people in the room became emotional. Others remained completely still. No one expected such vulnerability. No one expected such truth. And then something happened that even your soulmate had not anticipated. A memory surfaced. A specific memory. One they had carried quietly for a very long time. The moment it entered their mind, their voice changed. The room noticed immediately. Emotion filled the space. The atmosphere became almost tangible. As though everyone present could feel the significance of what was about to be revealed. Your soulmate paused. Their eyes reflected a mixture of fear and relief. Fear because truth can feel terrifying. Relief because truth finally spoken no longer has to remain hidden. Then they shared that memory. Not every detail. Not every piece. But enough for everyone listening to understand that there was someone who had left a permanent imprint on their heart. Someone they had never completely forgotten. Someone whose influence remained present despite time, distance, and circumstances. The room became absolutely silent. Some people already suspected who that person was. Others had no idea. But everyone recognized the sincerity in your soulmate's voice. There was no performance. No exaggeration. No attempt to impress anyone. Only truth. And truth carries a unique kind of power. My child, what many people fail to realize is that souls remember what minds attempt to forget. The heart keeps records of moments that logic tries to erase. And sometimes those records reappear when they are needed most. That is exactly what was happening. Your soulmate was confronting emotions they could no longer deny. Emotions that had survived every distraction. Every attempt to move forward. Every effort to convince themselves otherwise. The confession deepened. The room listened. The atmosphere intensified. And then your soulmate said something that caused several people to visibly react. They admitted that there had been moments when they imagined an entirely different future. A future built around a different choice. A future shaped by a different decision. A future connected to someone who still occupied a sacred space within their heart. No one moved. No one spoke. Some people stared in disbelief. Others lowered their eyes. Because by now, everyone understood this was not a casual conversation. This was a soul speaking its truth. This was a heart revealing what it had hidden for far too long. And still, the most shocking part had not yet arrived. Even your soulmate could feel it approaching. They could sense another truth waiting beneath the surface. A truth they had never spoken aloud before. A truth capable of changing how others viewed everything they thought they knew. The room waited. The silence grew heavier. The air felt charged. Your soulmate took a breath. Another breath. Then they began revealing the part of the story they had never shared with anyone. Not family. Not friends. Not even those closest to them. A secret they had protected for years. A realization they had only recently accepted themselves. As the first words left their mouth, expressions changed across the room. Shock appeared. Confusion appeared. Curiosity intensified. No one could have predicted what they were hearing. Because the confession was leading somewhere unexpected. Somewhere deeper. Somewhere far more significant than anyone imagined. My child, there are moments when destiny moves quietly. And there are moments when destiny announces itself with undeniable force. This confession was becoming one of those moments. The people listening sensed they were standing at the edge of something extraordinary. Something unfinished. Something still unfolding. Your soulmate's voice trembled slightly. Not from weakness, but from the weight of what they were about to say. Their heart was no longer hiding. Their spirit was no longer pretending. And the truth that had waited so long was finally approaching the surface. They looked around the room. Met the eyes of several people. Then fixed their gaze on a distant point as though seeing memories no one else could see. The next words were unlike anything anyone expected. The confession shifted from reflection to revelation. From memory to realization. From regret to understanding. And as those words began forming, every person present felt the atmosphere change once again. Because they sensed that what was coming next would explain everything. The confusion. The silence. The longing. The unanswered questions. The choices. The missed opportunities. The emotions that refused to disappear. Everything. But before the final truth could emerge, something unexpected interrupted the moment. A voice from across the room spoke up. A single question. A question so direct that it froze the entire conversation. The moment those words were spoken, your soulmate's expression changed completely. And everyone immediately realized they had touched the deepest part of the story. The one place your soulmate had been avoiding all along. For several seconds, they said nothing. The silence stretched. No one moved. No one dared interrupt. Because everyone knew the answer about to be given would reveal what this confession had truly been about from the very beginning. Your soulmate finally lifted their head. Their eyes carried a mixture of courage, vulnerability, and certainty. They opened their mouth to answer. And the words that began to form would leave every person in that room absolutely speechless. But that revelation has not yet fully unfolded. And what happened the moment your soulmate finally answered that question is where this story takes an even more unexpected turn. The room remained frozen. No one shifted in their seat. No one reached for their phone. No one even seemed to remember the conversation that had existed before this moment. Every person present was focused on your soulmate. Waiting. Watching. Wondering what answer could possibly be important enough to create such tension. The question still hung in the air. It had been spoken only once, yet its weight seemed to fill every corner of the room. Your soulmate stared into the distance for several seconds. Not because they did not know the answer. Not because they were confused. But because they understood that once those words were spoken, there would be no taking them back. Some truths change everything the moment they leave your mouth. This was one of those truths. A deep breath escaped their lips. Their eyes lowered briefly. Then they looked up again. And when they finally spoke, their voice carried a level of certainty that nobody in that room had ever heard before. I think I've been lying to myself. The words landed heavily. Several people exchanged glances. Others sat completely motionless. Your soulmate continued before anyone could react. I spent years convincing myself that I was over certain things. Another pause. Another breath. But being over something and making peace with it are not the same thing. The silence deepened. Because everyone understood that statement on some level. Everyone had experienced moments when they claimed they had moved on while secretly carrying pieces of the past inside them. Your soulmate wasn't speaking casually. They were exposing a wound. And wounds reveal truths that polished stories never can. For years they had told themselves that life was moving forward exactly as it should. They followed plans. They met expectations. They checked every box that society said would lead to happiness. Yet every achievement felt strangely incomplete. Every milestone seemed unable to fill a space they could not explain. At first they blamed stress. Then timing. Then circumstances. Then bad luck. But eventually excuses ran out. And when excuses disappear, truth becomes harder to avoid. One person in the room quietly asked why. It was a simple question. A single word. Yet it opened a door your soulmate could no longer keep closed. Why? Why had they felt incomplete? Why had certain memories survived while others faded? Why had they struggled to embrace futures that looked perfect on paper? The answer emerged slowly. Not because it was difficult to say, but because it was difficult to admit. Your soulmate confessed that every major decision they had made was measured against one invisible standard. One person. One connection. One memory. No matter how far life carried them. No matter how much time passed. No matter how many people entered or exited their world. Part of them continued comparing every possibility to a feeling they once experienced and never truly forgot. The room became even quieter. Several people lowered their eyes. Others seemed visibly stunned. Because they had expected uncertainty. What they were hearing instead was conviction. Raw conviction. The kind that only appears when someone finally stops hiding from themselves. Your soulmate revealed that there had been countless nights when they lay awake replaying conversations from years earlier. Moments that seemed insignificant at the time. Words they wished they had said differently. Decisions they wished they had approached with greater courage. Opportunities they allowed fear to steal from them. At first they believed those thoughts would fade. They never did. In fact, they grew stronger. The more they tried to ignore them, the louder they became. The more they tried to move forward without addressing them, the more persistent they became. And eventually a realization emerged. A realization that terrified them. The realization that the life they were building might not be the life their heart truly wanted. "My child," There are moments when people discover that the greatest distance is not between two places. It is between who they pretend to be and who they truly are. That distance had become unbearable for your soulmate. The room could feel it. Every word carried years of suppressed emotion. Every sentence revealed another piece of a puzzle nobody realized existed. Then someone asked the question everyone else was too afraid to ask. Is this about someone specific? The room froze again. The question struck directly at the center of everything. For a moment your soulmate smiled sadly. Not because the question was wrong, but because it was finally impossible to avoid. They nodded. The reaction was immediate. Several people inhaled sharply. Others leaned forward. Everyone wanted to know more. Yet no one expected what came next. Your soulmate admitted that there had never truly been anyone else who affected them in the same way. There had been relationships. There had been connections. There had been opportunities. But deep inside, none of them touched the place occupied by that one person. That truth alone left many people speechless. But the confession was only beginning. Because what your soulmate said next changed the entire atmosphere. They revealed that the person they were speaking about probably had no idea how deeply they were still remembered. No idea how often their name resurfaced in private thoughts. No idea how frequently memories returned without warning. No idea how many decisions had been influenced by emotions that never fully disappeared. Several people stared in disbelief. One person shook their head slowly. Another covered their mouth. Because suddenly everything made sense. The hesitation. The uncertainty. The emotional conflict. The unspoken sadness. The invisible weight your soulmate had carried. It all pointed back to one truth. A truth they had spent years trying to outrun. Then came the moment nobody expected. The moment that transformed the conversation from surprising to unforgettable. Your soulmate looked directly at the people gathered around them and said, "The hardest part isn't that I still remember." A pause followed. "The hardest part is realizing I've never stopped caring." The room went silent. Not ordinary silence. The kind of silence that appears when words hit deeper than anyone anticipated. Nobody had a response. Nobody had advice. Nobody had a clever remark. Because authenticity leaves little room for performance. And in that moment, authenticity filled the room completely. Some people became emotional. Others appeared shocked. But every person present recognized that they were witnessing something rare. A soul telling the truth without protection. A heart speaking without filters. And once that process begins, it becomes difficult to stop. The confession continued. Your soulmate explained that there had been countless signs over the years. Strange coincidences. Unexpected reminders. Moments that seemed ordinary until they carried unexpected emotional weight. At first they dismissed these experiences. Then they questioned them. Eventually they accepted them. Because there were simply too many to ignore. One memory would appear. Then another. Then another. Until the pattern became impossible to deny. The past wasn't asking to be relived. It was asking to be understood. That realization changed everything. For the first time, your soulmate stopped viewing their feelings as a mistake. Stopped viewing their memories as weaknesses. Stopped viewing their emotions as obstacles. Instead, they began seeing them as messages. Messages pointing toward something unfinished. Something unresolved. Something important. The room listened carefully. Nobody interrupted. Because everyone sensed they were approaching the heart of the confession. And then your soulmate revealed the thought that had haunted them most. The thought they had never spoken aloud. The thought that had followed them through years of uncertainty. What if the person I was supposed to build a life with isn't actually behind me? The words echoed through the room. No one moved. No one spoke. The impact was immediate. Because everyone understood what those words implied. They implied possibility. They implied unfinished destiny. They implied that certain stories are not as complete as they appear. Your soulmate closed their eyes briefly. As though releasing years of pressure. Then they continued. They admitted that they had spent too much time fearing rejection. Too much time fearing disappointment. Too much time fearing outcomes they could not control. Fear had influenced countless decisions. Fear had created distance. Fear had encouraged silence. Fear had convinced them that remaining quiet was safer than risking vulnerability. But fear comes with a cost. And eventually that cost becomes impossible to ignore. Your soulmate had finally reached that point. A point where silence hurt more than honesty. A point where uncertainty hurt more than truth. A point where pretending became harder than revealing. The atmosphere grew heavier. More emotional. More intense. And then someone asked a question that shifted everything again. What does this have to do with marriage? The room immediately focused on your soulmate. Because despite everything they had revealed, the original subject remained unanswered. Marriage. Commitment. The future. The confession that had started it all. Your soulmate stared at the floor for a moment. Then smiled faintly. Not a joyful smile. A reflective one. The smile of someone finally understanding their own story. When they looked up again, there was clarity in their eyes. A clarity that had been absent at the beginning of the conversation. Then they said something nobody expected. Something that would remain in the minds of everyone present long after that night ended. I realized I was asking the wrong question. Several people frowned in confusion. Your soulmate continued. For years I asked whether marriage was the right choice. A pause. But the real question was whether I was imagining that future with the right person. The room exploded into silence once again. Even those who had expected a powerful statement were unprepared for that. Because it stripped away every distraction. Every excuse. Every complication. And exposed the core issue beneath everything. It was never about commitment. It was never about timing. It was never about readiness. It was about truth. And your soulmate had finally found theirs. The emotional weight in the room became almost overwhelming. People could feel it. They could sense years of confusion collapsing into clarity. Years of uncertainty transforming into understanding. Yet something still remained unsaid. Everyone knew it. Your soulmate knew it. There was one final piece. One final truth. One final revelation that had not yet emerged. The confession was moving toward it with every passing second. Then a person sitting quietly near the back finally spoke. Until that moment they had said almost nothing. But now they asked a question so direct that the entire room froze again. A question nobody else had dared ask. A question capable of changing everything. They looked at your soulmate and said, "If you feel all of this, if you've realized all of this, then what are you going to do now?" The atmosphere instantly shifted. Because suddenly the conversation was no longer about the past. It was about the future. No more memories. No more reflections. No more explanations. A choice stood directly ahead. A choice nobody could make except your soulmate. For several seconds they remained silent. Their eyes reflected emotion. Fear. Hope. Determination. Uncertainty. All existing together. Then something changed. A calmness settled over them. Not the calmness of someone who has every answer. The calmness of someone who has finally stopped running. And as they prepared to answer, every person present leaned forward. Because they sensed that whatever came next would be the most important part of the entire confession. Your soulmate opened their mouth. The first words began to form. And the decision they revealed in that moment would leave everyone even more shocked than the confession itself. Because nobody in that room expected what they were about to hear.